And this process is not, you know, the only one. It's not the most perfect one I can imagine, but this is what we like to use because it gives us more control over what we offer our customers. It gives us more control on the plants that we use to up pot into these trays and to put out in our garden. Alright guys, so now we come to the part of the video y'all all been waiting on. Let me put these labels up here. So what we're going to be doing now is up potting some cabbage, some broccoli and things of that nature. Not going to do it all today. Y'all can see my breath in here, can't you? It's cool in this greenhouse, or this high tunnel. It's 48 degrees. So what we're going to do is up pot some small transplants. So you see me plant plants in these 512 trays, and this is Bilko. This is Chinese cabbage, and once they have acquired their true leaves, and what you can see they've started acquiring their true leaves, we want to up pot these into bigger containers. And this is what I'm using. This is a 48 cell. You've seen these, and I keep stacks of these things in the barn in here. And what I'll do is I'll go through and fill these with soil, and I'll show you what I'm getting ready to use. Fill these with soil, and then we'll transplant one individual plant into each one of these cells. So once we finish, we should have 48 plants per tray. And there's a reason for that. We plant on our cabbage and all, we plant on 20-inch spacings. That's 120 plants per row. 60 on one side, 60 on the other. And it may sound a little confusing, but it'll make more sense whenever you see us putting them in the ground. But for one 100-foot row, it takes 5 of these 48 cell trays to plant one row. So we know once we get into planting mode, we know how many trays to pick up and how many to set out on each row to be able to put in the ground. And it won't be long. Here pretty soon you'll see I'll have racks down each side of the garden, down each side of the barn, down each side of the high tunnel with these trays on it when I get ready to start hardening them off. When it starts warming up a little bit, so I can get them outside, get them ready to go in the ground, especially when we're watering and when we're fertilizing, things of that nature. They'll take up a lot of room around here. We'll have them in the barn, we'll have them everywhere. But that just gives you an idea how many plants we need to get our season started. All right, so when we first started these seeds, we used a sterile seed start mix. We used a medium that didn't have any nutrients in it. It was basically just, you know, well, we use peat, but it was basically void of anything nutritious for the plant. The seed itself has enough energy in it to get a plant to its first set of true leaves. Now, after that, it needs to be fed. So this Bilko, as you can see, some of these leaves are starting to lighten up. You can see over here, that's simply because I have fertilized these with Agri-Thrive, which is a 322, just a few times, but they need a little more than that. They need something to give them a little bit of a boost to, you know, get them off to the races. So when we pot up our tomatoes, our peppers, our things of that nature, we want to use a seed. We want to use a growing medium that has some nutrients in it. Now, we are going to the organic side of everything. We're using all OMRI listed materials, and this is what I'm using today. I know this stuff, I just picked this up the other day just to get this video done. OMRI listed, and I've always used worm caster when I was making up my up potting medium, but we're going to use this. It looks like pretty good stuff. I opened the bag a few minutes ago and it looks like pretty good stuff. We're going to sift it anyway, but you can see it doesn't have a lot of big chunks in it. I've used this in the past. It was a different bag though. I think it was a bigger bag, but it's got a few big chunks in it. But we're gonna sift that through our screen, and what we're gonna do is measure out how many scoops of this per how many scoops of worm castings and how many scoops of garden tone that we're going to put in it. So I am going to go through every step that I am going to use to up pot this first tray, and then give you an idea of how the process that involves. Once we get all of our inputs in, then these plants should not need any more fertilizer until we get ready to put them in the ground. All right, give you an idea, that's 4 scoops. And normally when I up pot tomatoes, I do it by a 5-gallon bucket. So I put 4 scoops into a 5-gallon bucket, and then I put my inputs in it to where I know exactly, and I mix everything in that one bucket. But I'm gonna go ahead and sift this first and then get that into the bucket, then we'll go from there. All right guys, so we got those 4 scoops sifted, and you can see how much bark and wood chips and everything else that's left over. And you know, that's That's a pretty good bit right there. Like I said, that's the first time that I'm using that on this organic, you know, journey that we're on. So I'm kind of looking for a media that I can use and that will benefit us. This is, it's a little pricey, so you know, I don't know necessarily it's going to be it, but for the sake of this video, we're going to go ahead and do it with this. This is after being sifted, which that's not bad. That's not crazy at all. Looks pretty good actually. So what I'm gonna do is get this into my bucket, and then we'll start adding our amendments. Alright guys, so we got our 4 scoops in this bucket, so we're going to start adding our amendments. Worm casting. I've always used worm casting up potting, especially with tomatoes, and basically it's for the beneficial microbes that are in it, and worm castings, man, are excellent fertilizer. It's expensive, but it's an excellent fertilizer. So we're going to put 1, 2 level scoops in there, and this is garden tone. That's what this stuff is. It has the equivalent of a 322. I've always used it also, especially tomatoes and peppers. It kind of acts as like a slow release nitrogen or a balanced fertilizer, but it is, for lack of a better word, it's almost safer for young tomatoes because it won't burn them. I haven't ever had any experience where it burnt my plants, let's put it that way. So we're going to use 2 scoops of that. And now we're going to mix everything together. Alright guys, so I got everything mixed up in this bucket. I'm going to get it in this tray, and we'll get it leveled off, and I'll show you the process of how we get those trays up potted. There's a little bit, looks like vermiculite in here. It's too small to be perlite. There is some perlite too. I see a couple of chunks in here. Alright, so I'm going through and I'm dimpling all of these sails. You can see, and I'm using the little Alright, so I went through, took my handy dandy nail, popped some of these up from the bottom, and see if I can find them here, or what they look like when they come out. And see, this is why I say the 512 trays were not meant to grow seedlings out. It was made to get them started, and then once you get them started, transfer them to something else they can grow in. And this is fairly easy process, as you can see. I'm going through, sticking them, and just pushing them down in it, and making sure it's got soil to go around it. So, in a nutshell, that's all it is. And this holds true for everything. Tomatoes, peppers especially. I like to do my heirloom tomatoes in these trays because I can start. I mean, when I start them, I start 3,000–4,000 at a time. So yeah, we just take where we dimpled it, set it down in there, push it in, and kind of make sure it's got enough soil around it. Alright, so we got the first tray done. This is the first tray of Bilko cabbage, and what I do is I'll take popsicle stick or crab stick, whatever you want to call them, and I'll make up a little tag. So the Bilko 1231, that's when it was started. I'm gonna make a tag. I'll always put the plant date, or I'll put the seed date when I put it in a tray, because we kind of want to keep up with the maturity on it. But yeah, in a nutshell, that is pretty much it. Now what I will do a little extra, since it is raining outside and I don't want to top water, is I'll get a tray that has a solid tray, and I'll get a little bit of that AgriThrive and some water, and I'll sit this tray down the inside of it, and kind of let it uptake through the bottom. We want to encourage these roots to go down and look for water. So we'll start bottom watering these. We may top water it today just to get them, you know, good and saturated, but this soil seems like it's pretty wet already. But I'm gonna go ahead and get a solid tray, get a little bit of agatha, put it in the bottom of it, set this tray in it while I'm working on the rest of them and let it be taking some of that up. All right guys, so there we are. That's the first tray. We got them set in, a little bit of agatha in there. We're gonna let them pull some of that stuff up, and I'm gonna get started on some more, and we'll get 5 trays out of that one. We'll get plenty out of it for sure. All right guys, so we just got done with that 512 cell tray. This is what's left, and a lot of these are really not worth messing with. Either they're too small or they look real weak, so we picked out the best that we could get, and this is what we end up with. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 48 cell trays of starts. Now these are going to sit out here probably the rest of the day, and then I'm going to take them back inside the barn and put them in a germination chamber under some artificial light. And I'm not going to put any bottom heat on them, but I'm just going to put them in there and let them kind of get acclimated to these trays. And then what I'll do is I'll move them out here, and they'll stay in this high tunnel until we get ready to transplant them outside. Now, like I said earlier, I will move them in and out of here and put them outside on those racks and let them get used to, you know, the sun, and let them harden off that way. But for the most part, they're ready to go. In about 4 weeks, maybe 5, they'll be ready to go in the ground. And I haven't made up my mind yet where we're going to put these. Like I said, you know, we're going to need 5 trays to do 2 100-foot rows. And the fact that we've got 6 trays means that I got enough to do a piece of another row, or fill in some gaps somewhere, or just keep a tray on hand in case some don't make it in the garden. But yeah, I'm gonna empty this tray out and get it good and clean, rinse it out really good, put some dirt in it, and yep, replant it. I've got more cabbage, I got more broccoli, and I got different varieties coming. And we like to keep, you know, stuff in trays, so we got succession plants coming right behind this stuff. And this technique may not be for everybody. Like I said, we start thousands of plants every year. Just this week alone, I've done 9,000 transplants. And that's just a drop in the bucket of what we're up against. Guys, if you found the information useful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you got questions about anything you see me use today, put it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer every one of them. Guys, as always, we appreciate you stopping by. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.